Hello and welcome to Sports Talkies with me, Sullivan. Have you ever wondered what it would be like immersed in the vast expanse of the ocean? How do you think your experience of being 20, 30, 40, even more feet underwater would be? Well, today with me, I've got somebody who has experienced our titanic oceans. Mario Fernandes is a certified free diver who has set multiple national records for free diving. He's dived at various locations across the globe, and today he sits down with us to give us a glimpse of his tryst with the water. Since he couldn't be with us in person, we've managed to speak to him via video call. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Thank you, Sylvan. Thank you for the intro and thank you for having me on this show.
You're most welcome, Mario. First of all, now, let me just get right into it. Please, first of all, explain to our viewers what the difference between scuba diving and free diving is.
Correct. So like Umberto Pellizzari said, scuba divers dive to look around while free divers dive to look within. Okay, I'm going to tell you the difference between the two sports now. The most obvious difference between scuba diving and free diving is breathing. Scuba divers are taught to never hold their breath underwater due to the risk of over expansion. But free divers, on the contrary, hold their breath throughout the entire dive because they inhale. They don't inhale air underwater like scuba, but they hold their dive and dive as deep as possible. Another Another major thing that sets the two activities apart is that freediving is much less dependent upon equipment than scuba. Thanks to this, many people feel that freediving comes more naturally and offers more personal experience with the underwater world.
Okay, so that would mean that there are a considerable number of health hazards that could be involved with free diving, considering you don't have any breathing apparatus underwater. Could you tell me about some of the health issues that you might face when you're free diving?
See, when it comes to free diving, any adventure sport, like it is like you have to be careful what you're doing and stuff. But when it comes to free diving, first of all, free diving, a lot of people have misconception thinking it's a breath hold activity and it is dangerous. Any sport, like if it's not done properly, it is dangerous. So basically, when it comes to free diving, you train like, to progress very slow, very taking baby steps to progress on
Correct.
depths and stuff like that, and not making bigger jumps, because the whole point is the pressure. Because when it comes to pressure, there are multiple things that can go wrong. One of the biggest things and stuff. So you base the pressure diving on deeper dives.
All right.
And that can be done only through experience, proper training.
And a lot of practice, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay, so what made you get into free diving in the first place? What is the motivation behind you getting into the sport?
Firstly, with the ocean in my backyard, I was always wanting to know and learn more about ocean and its rich biodiversity. So I learned to scuba dive back in 2013. It was there I met like many freediving athletes who came to India, to practice yoga and stuff. And that's where I started also to know about freediving, that it's a very serious sport and can be like done in a competitive as a competitive sport also. This made me more curious, and I wanted to know more about it. And I got to know that it is a sport which is not yet developed in a country of
Yeah.
billion people, and I wanted to do it like professionally, go up to the instructor level and do courses like like done in a proper professional manner. But then there was no instructor in the country, so I had to go overseas to do the courses, and I became like the first level 2 instructor in freediving in India.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. Okay, can you explain to us what your experience was like during your first free dive when you did it for the first time ever?
The first time going back is like I remember of like just playing playing around in the pools and stuff, throwing coins in the deeper end line, trying to get them. Those were my first like the days that I remember of free dives like that I used to do, but it was not properly like done. Obviously I've not done any training and stuff, but slowly I moved to a next step when we started, because the ocean was my backyard, and it was very accessible, and the only place I could do dive deeper was the ocean. And we used to play with fishermen friends and stuff, like going down and getting sand and stuff. Those were my starting days, and I still remember getting sand and like still having those equalization problem, and then didn't know what to do. And when I got to know more about free diving and learn the technique, I instantly could dive deeper and stuff. Those are my first
That's great.
days I can remember of free diving actually.
Okay. I'm saying
Yeah.
you had a number of national records in the sport of freediving. So all I want to know is what kind of
Yeah.
apprehensions or fears would you have before attempting like a record dive?
So the biggest, see, basically we train vigorously before attempting a record. And the biggest thing when it comes to attempting a record is the level of stress that is built up during just before the dive.
Yeah.
And through rigorous training and stuff we overcome. We know how to get into the meditative zen mode and overcome the fears. When it comes to the biggest challenge, it's not the breath hold. The biggest challenge is equalization, and you need to go into that mode where you focus every step, like just before doing the dive, what you're doing next and stuff like that. You're in a state of completely zen mode where you're just thinking only about the dive and nothing else, and that keeps me going, because I then focus only on the dive, what is the next step is coming up, and which is the equalization. So I pay attention to that. Very less I will go in the mode of like thinking or something. I also take my mind to a very happy place, that and I don't think that at that point of time I go in the moment like of enjoying the dive and not thinking, oh, how deep I'm diving, the next thought, because otherwise the next thought comes to the mind is like, will I make it to the surface? So I completely shut down the thoughts and keep my mind in a very happy place, so everything goes perfect.
Four, three, two, one. Official top. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4. Mario Fernandes. National record from India. 45 meters. Constant dive time 1 minute 40 seconds.
Signal this time. Okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
What challenges have you had to overcome during this whole freediving journey that you've been through?
So the big challenge was being the first free diving free diver, and the first level 2 instructor level in the country. And it was tough to get someone to train me, because there was no higher instructor or a coach to train me. So training further meant traveling abroad,
Yeah.
and that required funding, and I did not, which I did not have, and I had to like save quite a bit and stuff and go to different countries.
Mhm.
I was also blessed to come across a few international freediving athletes and trainers who saw the potential in me when they were in India, and took me into their fold over the years. I want to give some recognition to this sport, and then so that it is, isn't different from the future of freediving athletes. And they took me to, they sponsored me to train me under them, and that a lot to, get where I'm. Because like during those days, I was the only highest level, and there was no one else to do that high level of safety and stuff.
Okay. So you just mentioned that you've free dived in a lot of other countries. Can you tell us where all you've done this? And can you tell us about your experiences doing this in other countries?
The last training before attempting a record, I trained in Israel, in Eilat, where I was there for 2 months training with one of the elite coaches in the world. His name is Aaron Solomon. So this is one place I've trained like very rigorously for depth, and like, especially for depth and attempting a national record. I also trained in Ibiza. I was super lucky to be sponsored to go to Ibiza, where especially my training was only breath hold training.
Okay.
So I was training in the pool, mostly in the pool and shallow waters for breath hold. And I remember her name was when I met her first time, I used to do 4 minutes breath hold. And when I met her, I instantly went to 540. And from then on, like, I was just like going on and on. And my current breath hold right now is 7 minutes.
Wow, that's really impressive. Talking
So,
about breath hold,
last,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Yes. No, and the last place where I did my professional training to become an instructor was in Thailand, in Koh Tao.
All right. Okay, talking about breath holds,
Yeah.
can you tell me how you mastered the art of holding your breath? Because most normal people can barely do it for a minute, minute and a half. How do you do 7 minutes? Like, what kind of preparations and what kind of practice do you need to be able to do to hold your
So
breath for that long?
basically getting into the sport, and if you're really serious freediver and want to, like, pursue this professionally and stuff, there are various training routines that you need to do. One of them is like you need to involve a lot of cardio and stuff, a lot of stretching routines, like, a lot of breathing exercises. Because when I started first, I started with 45 seconds, and slowly, when I slowly got to know about the new techniques and stuff, I started only increasing on the breath hold. Uh, Also, we teach in for the student proper ways of breathing, because like we say we are breathing, but actually we don't breathe properly, because we only breathe something called as tidal breathing, which is like only 500 of ml of air, and our total lung capacity is around 3 liters.
Okay.
So by like training for freediving, we teach like the proper techniques of breathing, where you take deeper inhales and stuff like that, and how to, hold your breath longer by like more amount of air in your lungs. So it took me a few years, and it's all about practicing and training.
All right. You're involved with various types of animal rescue also, that I've heard. Is this only marine animals or would this be all animals?
It's all animals. I used to work earlier for an NGO called Green Cross, which was wildlife rescue. And our primary rescues were snakes and other wild animals, but we did get a lot of calls like turtles, marine birds, and stuff like that. So it was a total wildlife rescue. We did get like a lot of other calls and stuff also.
Okay, so what are you currently doing in Bangalore? I mean, you live out of Bangalore. What do you currently do?
Right now, my prime focus, like I'm already training for the next competition, which is coming at the end of the year. And what I'm right now doing is like, I also have a school called Freedive India. So
Okay.
basically, I'm teaching students, from the beginner level to the advanced and also elite level, to make more of freediving athletes, and like, to make more awareness and stuff like that. So also my plan is like this year after competing, we had a ranking of like 3,500 in the world of freediving list. And after doing this four disciplines, I bought the ranking from like 3,500 to top 100. I was at the 70th position, and it was the first time I was competing. So I did like also the records very conservative so that I can break them and like go much deeper. So the plan right now to break those existing records that I've set, and put India slightly in
On the
ranking
map.
wise slightly high. Yeah.
Got it. What are the type of sensory experiences that you have while diving? I mean, I've read a couple of articles where I've heard that the ocean is a very noisy place. What are the kind of sensory experiences
Yeah.
that you have had while diving?
So one thing I will tell you is like, first of all, it's one of the coolest thing when it comes to freediving is we are all born freedivers. Okay, because we spend 9 months of before the birth in our mother's womb, and we are surrounded by a fluid. The moment a person or is born, like they can hold their breath for 30 to 40 seconds, and as you start growing up, the reflexes fade away, which is called the mammalian diver reflex. And
All right.
mammalian diver reflex only happens in free diving, and there are a couple of things that happen while diving. One of the thing is called the blood shift, which is the most important thing when it comes to deeper free diving, and it is only experience in free diving and no other sport in the world. So what happens is like, the pressure when it comes to diving those depths is incredible. If it was the same pressure on land, it would have crushed you to like crazy way. But thanks to the blood shift, what happens during the blood shift is the blood is directed to the from the extremities to the lungs, and it helps you to protect from the oncoming pressure, and you can dive deeper, stay longer, and stuff like that. So this is the most craziest thing, in terms of reflexes that triggers in the body. And also thanks to the reflex of a mammalian diver reflex, where you can like to training and stuff, where you can actually control your heart. Your heart rate drops from 10 to 50% the moment the reflex it is kicked in, and you go in a conservation oxygen conservation mode, and you can dive deeper and stay longer.
Okay, finally, for any youngster or for anyone for that matter who wants to get involved with free diving, what kind of advice can you give?
Uh, I mean, the best advice I would give to the youngster or people who are getting into the sport, firstly, always, focus on the safety. The most important thing is safety when it comes to training in the water. Even if you're training in like knee deep water or waist deep water, safety comes first, and focus on safety. Do your research, especially if someone is planning to train for depth. When it comes to training for depth, it needs to be taken very seriously. Like, you need to take like baby steps and not make bigger jumps. Progress very slowly, understand the pressure, understand equalization, and take it very easily. At the end the fight is just between yourself.
All right, so that's all we have time for on this episode of Sports Talkies. First of all, thank you, Mario, for being on the show with us today. Uh,
Thank you,
we
Steven.
we hope that you've enjoyed this chat with Mario, and we also hope that he's able to serve as a role model for a number of people who'd like to get into this sport. We will see you again in another episode of Sports Talkies next week. Till then, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.